Good morning and welcome to DeProgram with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou. It's Veterans Day, November 11th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. John, happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. You know what? And because it's Veterans Day, I want to give a shout out to some veterans who are important to me. First of all, my dad, who hated literally every second that he was in the military and made us promise not to have the VFW do the 21 gun salute at his funeral, which we did anyway. My dad, Chris Kiriakou, Corporal Chris Kiriakou. But I've got three cousins on my mom's side. Zane Argyris, Zane Sophis, Michael Sophis, all of them were in the Marines. All of them were in Vietnam and were seriously highly decorated heroes. We're all proud of them. And my brother-in-law, Spiro, who spent several tours of duty in Iraq during the first Gulf War and the second, 100% disabled veteran because of his service. So happy Veterans Day to all those guys.
Wow, that's quite a military family you have there.
We were poor people. There was no other way out of Warren, Ohio.
Well, yeah, anything to get out of Warren, Ohio. For sure.
Tell me about it.
My father was a civilian in the U.S. Air Force. Before that, he made his way up to first lieutenant, and then he migrated over to the civilian and became a very well-known aeronautical engineer. The father of the modern Air Force, if you Google him, it will say. He's got a building named after him at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
Oh, my heavens.
Rawle Hall.
Wow.
Nothing like rhyming. My big veteran in my family is my French grandfather. He's a French veteran. So formerly he was a communist in the French Resistance, but then he signed. But then he, ultimately they were merged into the FFI, the Forces Françaises de l'Intérieur, and then they're considered, even though they were irregulars. They were brought in 1945 and declared to have been retroactively formal members of the French military who qualified for pensions and the whole thing. His name is on the Arc de Triomphe.
God, Ted!
He's a true hero of World War II.
That's a bona fide hero right there.
He was, yeah, and there are stories, and then we could do an entire show, I'm sure, on any of our relatives, just about their military service. So cool. So yeah, for the veterans out there, thank you. I never say this, thank you for your service, but thank you for your service. Okay, so we have a lot to talk about. South Asia is blowing up.
There is indeed.
Yes, got explosions in both India, in both the capitals of India and Pakistan. Two nuclear. It's never good when two nuclear powers neighboring each other who fought several wars before are blaming each other for terrorist attacks. Trump is going before the U.S. Supreme Court. I'm curious on your thoughts about this. I have no idea what you'll think. Jean Carroll verdict. He owes her over $80 million from this verdict. I had some problems with that verdict, with that case,
to say
the least.
There were a lot of unanswered questions.
And it's really old. So, I mean, it's hard to see how you could launch a defense or even a prosecution. And last but not least, we predicted when the war in Gaza started to wind down, I think we could just say it's starting to wind down, that it wouldn't take long before atrocities started coming to light. That's already happening. The IDF soldiers who feel awful about what they were told to do or what they saw other soldiers do are starting to testify about what they did and what they saw. And they said that there was this is not surprising, but it's good to have it on record that it was a free-for-all, that they were told that you could pretty much just shoot anyone between 20 and 40, especially if they were a male, just for walking around. If they were walking too slow, they were a target. If they were walking too fast, they were a target. If there were one person lagging behind two others, they were a target. So anyway, as always, if you're in the group chat, in the live chat in Rumble or on YouTube, please chime in with your questions and everything. Salone, and thank you for your donations over on YouTube. We are refunded. Just a reminder, we don't need any more money for Robbie, although it's more than welcome. I will put up that URL in a second. But Robbie is fully funded for the month of November. And thank you very much for your support there. Thanks for the $2, Tobby J. Happy Veterans Day to you too. Soden2324, thanks again for the generous contribution of $20. Happy Veterans Day to all who served. Do we think Sergei Lavrov is in a gulag right now? And do you think Putin was nervous because of his influence.
I don't think he's in a gulag. I don't think Putin was nervous. I think something happened. Something was said or done that seems to have pushed Lavrov out of the innermost circle temporarily, maybe. I don't know, but no, I don't think so. I don't think Lavrov's in any kind of danger. I think the worst thing that could happen to him is that he's told that it's time to retire.
He's old. And,
he's old, yeah,
and he's not wearing his age as well as Putin is.
So, no, that's right. I'm going to look to see how old Lavrov is.
I'd have to.
He's 75.
Guess. Oh, I was going to say 72, but he doesn't look like he and vodka are total strangers.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Hyperneurotic over on the Rumble chat. Thank you for the $5. Semper Fidelis. Happy Veterans Day. Best show around. Praying that John gets a pardon and a Presidential Medal of Freedom. You're as much a veteran as us,
Thank you
John.
very much for that.
Angel Falala. Thank you for the $5 also. And I got to give Rebellious Rainbow Unicorn her props here. Oh, sorry. Manya the Cat also. Manya the Cat said, not to spoil the mood, but I shudder every time Vietnam War veteran is celebrated. My parents had to evacuate Hanoi many times because of the bombings as infants. Fair.
That is fair. Yeah, that's fair.
Okay, so let's get to it. What do we want to talk about first?
Let's talk about India and Pakistan, because that looks like it's getting worse by the hour.
Yeah.
So yesterday we talked briefly about this bombing in Delhi that killed people, that injured a lot, and we speculated based on nothing but our own analysis that it was probably Kashmiri separatists. I think at this point it doesn't really matter who it was, other than whoever it was needs to back off, because things are going to get worse quickly. In the meantime, the Pakistani-Taliban, which is an indigenous Pakistani group that allies itself with the Afghan Taliban because it says that the Pakistani government is not Islamic enough, launched an attack in Islamabad aimed solely at civilians. And it's like, what is it, 12 dead and 24 wounded so far. This is the first attack directed solely against civilians in more than 10 years. But this is what the Pakistani Taliban and ISIS-K do in Pakistan. They will attack Shia Muslim mosques. They'll attack police stations. They tried to attack a month ago a training academy for teenage police cadets. They were repulsed in Paktikwa, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but what used to be called the Northwest Frontier Province. So this is not looking good on either side. The Pakistani government immediately blamed India for this attack, saying that it was India that supported the Pakistani Taliban. Of course, the Indians are blaming the Pakistanis for the bombing in Delhi. And as you said in the intro, Ted, when the two sides are nuclear powers, nothing good can come of this. They need to start talking and maybe working together and coming to an agreement to not arm, train, and finance terrorist groups that are attacking each other.
Right. Well, I mean, Pakistan, I thought was really interesting that their spin was that they actually blamed India for Afghan. They said it's Afghans who work with the Pakistani Taliban.
Right.
That is 92% probably not true, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Because what do they get out of it? What do they accomplish out of this? You go to whatever, a hotel, or in this case it was a court building, and you blow yourself up and kill 24 people. Okay, what do you get out of that? No policies are going to change. Your cousin's not going to be released from prison. It's just murder, senseless murder. There's nothing else you can call it.
Although, I mean, to play devil's advocate, this was a big part of the war against U.S. occupation forces in Afghanistan for 20 years, was exactly those kind of tactics that that never existed in Afghanistan before 2001, right? That was suicide bombing was not a thing in Afghanistan. They did every other kind of war.
That's right,
but not that. And it seems like that tactic, sort of like it came out of Iraq, it migrated into South Asia, and now it's here to stay. But obviously, there's been there was the attack at the Taj Hotel in Mumbai. I mean, this has been a back and forth thing. Generically speaking, Pakistan has always tended to be more guilty of this, overwhelmingly, right?
Yes.
And then India's, to me, where you blame India is that they have a tendency to turn up the temperature, right? Like the government of Prime Minister Modi is, basically, he's a nationalist, and this plays into his narratives about, and using Pakistan as the bête noire. And, I mean, I gotta say, when you go to India, right, like people will say they hate Gandhi because he presided over the partition, and we're still fucking fighting over this shit now. And it's just, you're right. I mean, what ultimately needs to happen is for India and Pakistan to get together and cut the shit. And they're also kind of, I think, unwittingly being used as proxies.
Without any question. Yes.
The US.
Yes, definitely. I agree with that completely.
So it's we're going to follow that. There were 2 incidents in Pakistan, by the way, right? The district court in Islamabad was blown up. The outside, 12 people died, 27 injured, right in the middle of the lunch hour. And that almost certainly is, I would say Pakistani Taliban, right? No, almost certainly. But I don't think India had anything to do with it. The Red Fort thing, I mean, they're gonna react to this with sort of a post 9/11 kind of attitude. Modi just invoked the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, which allows basically the suspension of civil liberties under Indian law, a lot more spying on Indian citizens and so on. So this is a great opportunity it's like a Reichstag fire kind of crackdown.
Man, this is not good. India and Pakistan are no strangers to scrapping it out. But again, they both have nuclear weapons. And I'm going to go on record again. Despite what the Pakistani media is saying about me, the Pakistanis will get their asses kicked in a conventional war.
Well, they have every single time, right? The Pakistanis have mixed it up with the Indians on 3 separate occasions.
That's right.
Most recently, it's very personal for me, John, because I was literally there. I helped break the story of the Kargil conflict.
Yeah.
It was an accident. I mean, my friend Cole and I were on a bus on the Karakoram Highway. We crossed the border from Xinjiang in China on the bus. And the first thing that we noticed was that on the Pakistani side of the border outpost was abandoned. You never see that. It was just, it's a trailer with like a Pakistani flag on it. And we walked inside and they were gone. And it's like the movie where the teacup was still warm and the guy had taken off. And we drove for the better part of 24 hours before we encountered any human beings. And then finally we started seeing Afghan Taliban, this was 1999, marching along the side of the streets, and then came into a little village, and there had just been some kind of battle there, a small battle. There's some dead cows and some dead, a few dead bodies. And then we just kept going, and we saw, and it was like, oh God, the Taliban are here. And it's like, we're in Pakistan. This is the northern areas, as they called it at the time.
I never felt so far from home as I did there.
Oh my God.
Never anywhere in the world did I feel so far away from home as the Northwest Frontier Province.
Agreed. And we got pulled off the bus, and they were like, by the Taliban. And and they were like, you should know better than to come to Afghanistan. I said, this isn't Afghanistan. This is Pakistan. And he goes, it's Afghanistan now.
Oh my God.
And this was right at the same time that basically a week later, when I was in Islamabad, Musharraf overthrew the Sharif government. And it turned out that Musharraf appears to have made some kind of deal with the Taliban to basically open the border and allow the Taliban to come in and fight the Indians as proxies. And that started this high altitude 1999 Third Kashmir War, AKA the Kargil conflict. And it was just like, But again, the Pakistanis never stood a chance.
No, they don't stand a chance. No, and what is dangerous right now? Well, it's what was dangerous in past conflicts as well, is that the Taliban government and the Indians are very friendly, very friendly. Do you remember? It must have been 2002, I guess.
I know what you're going to say
about the big bombing in Afghanistan at the Indian embassy. I mean, the crater was 30 feet deep.
Yeah. But there's been ties, right? I mean, like, for example, there was the Air India flight that was hijacked to Taliban Afghanistan, and the Taliban took care of it. I've always thought it was a curious relationship because, it is called the Hindu Kush Mountains, right? The killer of Hindus. I mean, it's weird. Like, the Afghans really seem to, they really hate everything that the Indians are about in terms of their religion and all that, but they don't seem to dislike the Indian people that much.
I think that's exactly right. Yes.
And of course their culture is all over the place, right? Like all of the Bollywood movies are all over
sometimes
Afghanistan.
Before they're released in India. The bootlegs make their way to Afghanistan. It's the craziest thing.
John, the first movie that was ever released after the fall of the Taliban was playing at a movie theater in Kabul. I saw it open, and it was a taxi. I was driving by in a taxi, and it was AK-47, which was a Bollywood movie. And the taxi driver, completely stone-faced, goes, "I love that movie. I feel like it really talks to me." And I'm like, "You're Afghan. Of course AK-47 speaks to you."
Oh my God.
The country's awash in them.
Oh my God. I know that you know this, but I was sent to Afghanistan by Paramount Pictures in 2007 to rescue these children who had appeared in the movie The Kite Runner and their families. Because so many Afghans are so simple that they didn't know the difference between a movie and reality. They thought that when they saw these bootleg copies of The Kite Runner, that this was a depiction of reality, and they set out to kill the children who appeared in the movie. And so the studio had to get them out. Yeah, Afghans are not complicated, sophisticated individuals.
No. They're why. There's something about them that I love, is that they're the only people I've ever met, and there may be others on the planet because I've hardly been everywhere, but they have these wild eyes. Like, they're wild. Like they're like, they have something in that human beings don't have anywhere else, that's been like tamed out of us. You know what I mean? Like this sort of like ferocity.
Yeah. They're perfectly happy to pick up that AK-47 and say, "What did you just say?"
Totally. Yeah. And I love their dark cynicism too. I mean, I was looking for an old fixer from 9 years previous, and the guy's like, "How long has this been?" And I go, 9 years. He goes, 9 years? He's probably dead. This is Afghanistan.
Oh my God.
And he was serious too.
Oh my God.
It's pretty crazy. All right, so let's see here. We have. I'm just trying to like. By the way, we get Robbie back on Monday, and not a day too soon. I gotta say.
Thank goodness.
And Robbie's in the chat. Robbie, we love you.
Good.
We need you. Can't do it without you. Well, we can do it without you, just not well. Anyway, do we want to talk about E. Jean Carroll?
Yeah, let's talk about E. Jean Carroll.
All right, so E. Jean Carroll, obviously, she was the writer for various magazines. She was a columnist in New York City. And back in the mid-90s, she ran into Donald Trump. This part's all like not in question. She ran into Donald Trump in the street, like an episode of Sex and the City. And it's like, "Hey, Donald." And somehow they decided to walk to Bergdorf Goodman together. Maybe she was going to shop, maybe he was going to shop, but one decided to tag along with the other. One thing led to another. They end up in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman, which, if you're not familiar with New York City, is a huge luxurious Fifth Avenue department store. And, you might be thinking about, like, say, Macy's or someplace like that. It's not like that. So
as an example, I'm sorry to interrupt you. RT gave me a ton of money a few years ago because I lost all this weight, and they told me, here's $10,000, go buy new clothes.
Nice.
Yeah, I was very generous of them. So I went out and I bought a bunch of clothes. I happened to be in New York, and I went to Bergdorf Goodman's. And I was just looking for a couple of polo shirts, just regular polo shirts.
Right.
$700 per polo shirt.
In the 80s, I went shopping for a pillow, and I accidentally bumped into there because I was working at a bank nearby. And the pillows were $400. And they weren't special. They're not like, they don't give you oral sex. It's like, they're just pillows. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh my God.
No, yeah. So this is key to the story. And anyway, by all accounts, Carol and not Trump. Trump claims that he didn't even know her.
Right.
We know that's not true.
It's not true.
And that basically, there's no question they ended up in that room together. They fooled around. She said that there was penetrative. Basically, she was all in until he wanted penetrative sex. That happened against her will. So she said she'd been raped. She kept it all to herself, although she did contemporaneously mention it to a few friends. And within a year or two after the incident, and then years later, during the whole lawfare period, during the Biden administration, I guess Carol probably thought this was her chance. Who knows? Who knows why? Maybe it was simply a matter of like, I finally had enough and I'm going to sue. Long story short, she sues him in, obviously the statute of limitations has long expired, but she sues him in civil court. New York State had just passed. That's probably why she did it. Outgoing Governor Cuomo had just signed a 1-year window for temporarily suspending the statute of limitations for civil lawsuits related to sexual misconduct in New York State.
Yeah.
So she filed that suit. That's probably why. And she won. She kicked his ass 6 ways till Sunday. And so she was, this is a civil suit based on the preponderance of the evidence, which means that the jury has to think more or less that it's 50 or more % likely to have happened. This ultimately $5 million jury finding of sexual abuse and defamation, the defamation being that he denied that it happened.
Right.
And the $83 million defamation add-on, when he appealed, the judge said, oh, you didn't think $5 million was enough? We'll give you $83 million more. So he owes her nearly $90 million. He's in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. John, I don't know what happened there, and I am going to speculate and say I don't know that there's been very many credible, allegations of actual rape against Donald Trump. Yeah. Creepiness up the ass, but not rape. So
I feel the same way.
But I have a serious fucking problem with the fact that any human being in the United States can be dragged before a court more than 25 years after an alleged incident, when it's absolutely impossible to gather, evidence, to gather witnesses. If he had let's say he wasn't there. Well, It would be how is he going to be able to prove that he has an alibi? Right? Yes. Like, I was actually in Florida that weekend or whatever. I mean, he can't. There's just no way to defend yourself. And when you're in a civil suit, you really kind of need to defend yourself. It's not really like the burden of proof is all on the accuser. Mm-hmm. So what do you think I think I know what's going to happen here, but I think the Supremes are going to toss it. What do you think?
I think the Supremes are going to toss it as well. The Supreme Court doesn't like to get involved in these kind of more petty he said, she said things. They get involved where there are major and serious constitutional issues at play. And there's no constitutional issue at play here. I think that this jury award is outrageous. They did it at this number because it's Donald Trump and he has plenty of money. But
yeah. And also it was like the time to gang up on Donald Trump.
It was. Yes, but I don't think the Supreme Court is going to be at all interested in this kind of a case.
I mean, could they just refuse to hear it?
Oh yeah. In fact, they refuse to hear 90-something% of cases.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anybody, literally anybody, can appeal anything to the Supreme Court. And a little factoid, you don't have to go through the process of going to the district court, then the circuit court, then the Supreme Court. You can just go straight to the Supremes.
Another factoid that people don't know is that your appeal is not based on the justice or injustice of the lower court decision.
That's right.
It's based on a constitutional question. So it's a very short brief usually.
Yes.
And you basically just go to the court and you say, what happened here raises some unresolved constitutional questions that we would like you, the court, to weigh in on.
That's right.
And so I don't know what constitutional issue
there's
there
no
would be here. Statute of limitations,
No.
or
I don't know. But
even one
that,
for me would be I don't know if it's a constitutional issue, but like I think it's like sophistry to say that denying guilt in a case can open you up to a defamation claim. I mean, at that rate, I mean, literally half of everyone who's accused of a crime who denies it is guilty of perjury and defamation against the victim, right?
It doesn't make any sense to me at all. None.
I mean, yeah. So we'll see. But on the other hand, I don't know that there's a constitutional issue.
No. He should probably just pay the money and move on. Just move on.
I don't know. If he didn't do it, I wouldn't pay.
My
mom taught me never admit to anything you didn't do.
But then she can seize, a building or something.
Well, John, so here's a question. Thank you very much, Toby, for your $5 Australian. I think you might need $6 Australian to answer this question, John. Based on all your CIA training and frontline experience, what have you learned to be the most profound truths, plural, about human nature? That's a big fucking question.
That's a big question. And I'm going to be something of a downer here and say that that human nature is an ugly thing. This is what I discovered, that people will do hideous things if they believe that they are the good guys in a conflict. And you can never trust that a person's humanity will control their uglier impulses. I saw people do horrible things. We were going out for a raid one night in Pakistan. There was this guy, Dan, who was working for me. And I liked Dan. He was a nice enough guy. And I said, Dan, strap up. Let's go. We got to get going. Like, where's your gun? And he said, I can't go. I said, why not? He said, I'm not allowed to carry a gun. I said, why? He said, I beat my wife. I was like, oh, okay. So he didn't go. Because there's a rule at the CIA, if you're accused credibly of beating your wife or beating your spouse, you can't carry a gun. And if you can't carry a gun, you can't go on the raid. So he just kind of sat back at the office and waited for us to come back. And that was a little thing. Otherwise, I've said many, many, many times that the CIA committed atrocities, crimes against humanity. And I've called out the people who did it. But my ugly conclusion is that people will default to the war crime rather than to default to doing the right thing. That's the ugliest thing I've learned about human nature.
It's I was when you said that, I was literally just thinking, I love to collect propaganda and military ephemera, and the belt buckle, I don't have one yet, but the Nazi belt buckle said in German, right, like, God is with us, God is on our side, and it has the swastika on it. Everybody thinks that, like, if it's supporting their side, they can do whatever we want, and they want, and it's justified.
Yeah.
In the course of a quote unquote higher calling. Very, very good question here. Jennifer P.O. is asking why we didn't talk about the fact that Nicolas Sarkozy got out of the can yesterday.
He was only in for like a week, wasn't he?
3 weeks.
Okay.
Probably felt like 2.5.
Right.
He was in solitary apparently the entire time.
You would have to be.
And they really, why? Just because he's
going to get his ass kicked otherwise. I mean, who wouldn't want to be the guy who, beat Nicolas Sarkozy so badly that his eyeball popped out or something?
He does have a very punchable face, too.
Yeah, he does.
And he's a very small man. And people think of France as like this really like sort of mellow, but the prisons have a terrible reputation there. It's very dangerous. So I don't even understand why the fuck they released him, right? Basically, it's like his defense team basically just said, please release him pending trial. And they said, okay. And that's it. I mean, I guess it's sort of like, it's France, it's class, membership has its privileges.
May I ask you something too? Several times when explaining my legal situation to Europeans, I'll give you an example. One night I was invited to speak at the Luxembourg Film Festival. A bunch of us went out afterwards, and I happened to be sitting next to the Minister of Justice of Luxembourg. Guy was like half my age, but he went on and on about the French system, that how far superior the French legal system was to what we had in the United States or what the Brits have in the UK. And he said something very interesting. I have no idea if it's true, but I'm hoping you can tell me. He said that the job of the attorneys, both the prosecuting attorneys and the defense attorneys, is to get to the truth.
Yes.
And so they'll do the investigation together. Then they'll negotiate, a deal. Or if they can't negotiate the deal, then it goes to trial. Is that true?
That is true. And in fact, the formal term is for a trial is that it's a judicial inquiry. This goes back to the Napoleonic Code, right?
Interesting.
And the idea is like, I really am sad that it's not yet available in the United States, but an officer and a spy, which is the most recent film by, the disgraced director.
Roman Polanski.
Yeah, Polanski. It's Polanski's most recent movie. It came out, I think, in 2019 or something. It's been banned in the West and the United States because he was Me Too'd so ferociously. But the movie's fantastic, and it's based on the Dreyfus affair and the Dreyfus trial. And they show this process of how it's a. I mean, obviously he was railroaded, but and that's part of what went wrong, was that like there was misconduct on the part of the prosecution. They weren't really interested in the truth, as Jack Nicholson would say. Right. But that is how the system is supposed to work. Obviously, the human beings, but yeah, no, I mean, that's the ideal. I mean, it's not really adversarial. The way ours is. I mean, in our system, you basically spin the facts in accordance with your side of the equation. If you're a defense attorney, your client is pure as the driven snow. If you're the prosecutor, they're the devil. It's not like that there. It's more like we want to find out what actually happened here. Now, that said, there's one thing that I really hate about the French system, which is you have no presumption of innocence. So
interesting. That's pretty ugly.
Yeah. I mean, actually, presumption of innocence is kind of rare in the world's legal systems. It's one of the things that used to make the United States special.
Wow, that's rough.
And I don't know if Sally Kirkland, who's an actor, just died.
I just saw that. Yeah, she was in The Sting. I remember her in The Sting. She was quite good.
The Sting is, one of those movies I've been meaning to go back to. I saw it when it came out when I was a kid, when I was 10 years old.
You are going to love it as much as you did the first time you saw it. I just rewatched it like in the last year, and I was like, dang, I forgot what a great movie this was.
Robert Redford.
And Paul Newman.
So good.
Yeah.
Gotta see it again. All right. So
I did the sorry to get off track, but I did the Dalton Fisher podcast yesterday. It's going to come out next week. And we got sidetracked onto the subject of movies, specifically of science fiction movies. And he had never heard of Soylent Green.
What?
That's what I said. Are you kidding me? I said, it's one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made and one of the most important films of the 1970s. And he said, oh my God, I love 70s and 90s movies. They were so great. And I said, yeah, but especially 70s movies. Even my kids bought me this coffee table book called The Stewardess is Flying the Plane, Movies of the 1970s. And I told him what Soylent Green was all about. And he's like, oh my God, it sounds great. I said, well, I looked it up while we were talking. I said, it's available on Amazon Prime. You have to pay $3.99 for it, but it's worth the $3.99. And I said, the only thing they got wrong, because, this took place in the far future, 2015. It took place in 2015. So they're imagining all these different things. Charlton Heston worked in what they called the megalopolis, which was just this giant city from Boston to Washington. You couldn't tell when you leave one city, you enter the next.
Oh, that's kind of like analogous to what the Saudis are building, right?
Yes.
That crazy.
Giant city outside Jeddah.
It's called the Line, I think?
Yeah, the Line, because it's all in the line because they have to supply water to it. Mm-hmm. So I said the only thing they got wrong was, they're in these police cars that sort of float. They're like almost like spaceships. They float just off the ground. You don't need tires, that kind of thing.
Hovercraft, yeah.
Hovercraft. But every time Charlton Heston needed to talk to his police station, he had to pull over and use a payphone.
It's so funny. John, I'm going to put up this question and then read an ad while you think about it. This is from FUSO. Thanks for the buck. Does Egyptian intel work with Mossad, like as in international assassinations?
No.
And I'm going to go ahead and hit this ad. Here we go.
Okay.
This is oldie but a goodie. Still haven't tried 1775 coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality mushroom coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash. All single origin, small batch, toxin free and mold free. Plus, you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions, and a black 1775 tumbler. $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something just like Rumble does. John?
We were talking about Mossad and Egypt. There is surface cooperation between Mossad and the Egyptian GID, the General Intelligence Directorate, where GID will tell Mossad, look, you've got a problem with some Palestinians at the Rafah crossing. Palestinians in Cairo are talking about an attack, stuff like that. Basic, immediate threat information. They don't like each other. They don't trust each other. They cooperate when they absolutely have to cooperate. But as for joint operations, especially lethal operations, absolutely not.
Real over on the Rumble feed. Thanks for the $2. I was kind of disappointed that Turkey issues arrest warrants for Israeli leaders because I was hoping they had an active role in Gaza. Do they still have a chance to play a role there?
I was actually surprised that the Turks filed these charges. They know that nothing's going to come of these charges. They know that no country's going to snatch Netanyahu and turn him over to the ICC. I was surprised because you're right. Turkey had been discussed very recently as being one of those countries that likely would play a large role in Gaza, whether it was peacekeeping or redevelopment or whatever. And now, politically, the Israelis are going to have to keep the Turks out. I'm not really sure why they did that, unless it was just a kind of a cynical move by Erdogan to shore up his conservative base. Otherwise, I don't see what the Turks get out of making a decision like that.
Jennifer Pio points out about French criminal law. Procedure is traditionally presented as written, secret, and non-adversarial. But this law was changed a long time ago. Yeah, so maybe that's why it's still in the Dreyfus Affair movie. Jennifer continues, there was no presumption of innocence in France when your dad lived there, grandfather actually. But post-2002, thanks to the Guigou law, named after Elizabeth Guigou, that has changed.
Post-2002. That's recent.
Yeah, France. We tend to think of France as kind of frozen in stone because it's an old country, but it actually evolves quite a bit. They have annual constitutional conventions, for example. in order to amend the French Constitution. And by the way, I just want to pat myself on the ass and say that, like, it does look like the Fifth Republic really is in trouble, but we will, that's for another time. Let's see. Oh, there was something.
There are a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yes, please. That's what I wanted to get to.
There's an easy one first. John, another SEAL Team 6 guy came forward from the UBL raid and gave more praise to Alfreda Bukowski. Did you ever work with her? If so, was she as good as described? Mm-hmm. I worked hand in glove with Alfreda Bukowski. She was my immediate boss when I was the chief of the counterintelligence branch at the Alex station. I don't want to say too much. My own personal belief, is she that good? Yeah. If the point is to kill people, yes, she's very good at killing people. I believe that she was a monster. I believe that Alfreda was guilty of crimes against humanity, and I don't use the term lightly. I would not want Alfreda coming after me if I were, an Arab. Because you're going to end up on a slab in a morgue. But Alfreda is not my cup of tea. That was number one. The other one was, hey, guys, I have a two-part question for you both. How do you guys follow the news? What medium do you use? And how do you analyze it? How do you find all the outcomes and sift through them? You want to tackle that one first?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, in my case, mainly I read the news on my phone. I go through, every news source that's basically free and in the English or French languages, I scan every day. Sort of my generic is the Google News, but then I'll look at AP, Reuters, The Guardian, TF24, the French TV network. I think it's always good to have the foreign thing. Always got to do the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post. New York Post is actually an important source. I do not really do social media. A lot of people are getting their news through social media feeds. I just don't trust it. I find like there's too much schmutz to get through. I'm old. I'm 62 years old. So for me, I still look at branded news outlets. And then, like, how do I analyze it? My brain kind of has, I remember we learned, like, in the 1970s, John, that, like, Soviet citizens, like, learned to read between the lines, and they would compare, like,
yes.
Pravda to Izvestia and look
yes.
for the consistencies and the inconsistencies. And that's sort of what you have to do now, because it's, it's always, as you and I talked about on your old show when I guested on it, is that it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. It's always what they leave out, right? So there's always stuff that's like context-free, historic, free of history that they just don't mention. And so to me, it's about, I have a good memory and I remember most of what I've read and I can compare it. So that said, I'm sure I'm being lied to and falling for some lies. No question about it. That's my short answer.
I do just about the same as Ted. I actually get up every morning early just so I could read the papers. I'll tell you where I start. I start with Google News. Then I go to the Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, LA Times, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Don't criticize me. I know it's a right-wing paper and they're on strike. Then I go to CNN, Associated Press, Fox, Politico, The Hill, the New York Post. Then I read the Greek papers. And then I read, the Telegraph and the Guardian. The Telegraph I actually have a subscription to. The London Evening Standard. Then I check some of the lesser ones, Raw Story, BBC, Al Jazeera, Al Monitor, Electronic Intifada. And then I look to see what my friends are writing at Consortium News. And I've got Axios there in case something's breaking. They oftentimes break new news. And then I'm ready for the show.
Gregory Batiste, CFA, thanks for the $5 and the laugh. Here's $5 for a copy of the LA Times for Ted. Well, my ass is a little itchy, so I probably missed some spots this morning. So thank you for that. And some poppy seeds for John. Evil robot.
Just what I need for my next drug test. Exactly. No, I'm not drug tested anymore. Just kidding.
Evil Robot Army, $5. Thank you for that. What do we think about Gavin Newsom? When AIPAC was mentioned on the Young Turks a few weeks ago, haven't heard you mention it.
I didn't see him on the Young Turks. I've got a bias against Gavin Newsom. I think he has DNC written all over him. I think he's sort of faking things right now to make himself look like he's kind of an independent progressive. I don't trust the guy. I don't like him. I don't like that Hollywood smile that he has. I hate that he banged his best friend's wife. Not cool at all. But so far, he's pretty much all the Democrats have.
Totally agree with that. And I have a personal grudge against Gavin Newsom because he fucked me in the LA Times.
Yes, he did.
Dr. Strangelove 7739. John, can the CIA pressure American businessmen who live overseas to cooperate in spying against a foreign country?
Oh, of course. And they do it every day. Absolutely, yes. That's why they have this thing called the National Resources Division. They go up to you and they say, listen, you're American. We're CIA. You're a patriot. We really need for you to do X, Y, and Z for us. They always say yes. So, yeah,
really?
that's an easy one. Oh, yeah.
Why do they always say yes? Why wouldn't they say, no one ever says, I'm familiar with the history of your agency and how you burn people, and I don't want to be burned, so thank you, but no thank you.
See, that's what you and I would say. But people think it's cool, it's clandestine, it's exciting. You can whisper to your buddies, over beers, hey, the CIA approached me. I'm working with them right now on this cool thing. They always say yes.
Ego.
Yep.
Scary girl. Okay, sorry, that's an accidental one. Oh, is there any chance of the French monarchy being restored? No.
Same with the Greek monarchy.
How come?
Done. First of all, they didn't even speak
Oh, where are they from?
From Denmark.
That's it. European monarchy is so strange, right? Could you imagine a scenario where, say, the Emperor of China is from, Vietnam? Like, no.
No.
Or the Philippines.
No. But royalty was imposed on Greece in 1821 upon the start of the revolution against the Ottoman Empire. And the first king of Greece was named Otto, which isn't even a Greek name. They had to Hellenize it by calling him Orthonas, which is the Greek version of Otto. He was Bavarian. He was a minor German prince. He was a cousin of Queen Victoria. So they put him on the throne. We hated him. He was king for like 30 years, never bothered to learn how to speak Greek. So he would give his pronouncements in German and have a translator translate it. He finally went on vacation to Germany one year, and the Greeks told him, don't bother coming back, because if you do, we're going to hang you from a tree. And so he never came back. So then Victoria...
It's always a mistake when you're a monarch to leave the country.
Always. So Queen Victoria imposed another king on us. This was a minor Danish prince, became king of Greece. He served for a long time. His son became the king. His son was bitten by a monkey. He was in Thessaloniki. This guy had a pet monkey. The king said, can I pet your monkey? He went to pet him. The monkey bit him, and the bite got infected, and he died of sepsis.
That's so fucking weird.
So his brother became the king, promptly got the Greeks in World War I on the wrong side. It's a long story, but finally in 1967, when the military junta overthrew the democratic government, they also overthrew the royal family. The royal family fled first to Cairo, then Rome, and then they settled in London. When I was living in London, I would see the king, the exiled king, in the front row, the front pew at church. And there were these rules like you can't talk to the king. I was like, I don't want to talk to the friggin' king. I don't believe in royalty. So I never said anything.
Well, you don't believe that God personly anoints some random fucker to take over a country?
Yeah, sorry, but no, I sure don't. So the royal family, there was a plebiscite, a national referendum in 1975 after the military was overthrown and Greece reinstituted its democracy. And the royal family got, I forget, 10%, 5%, something like that. So they did away with the royal family, and they confiscated all of their property, which was a really nice move. And so now they're renovating the weekend palace. It's called Tatoi. That's where they're all buried there. So, and it's just in a state of complete just breakdown, chaos, trees growing through cracks in the tombstones and stuff like that. So they're going to make it nice. And just in the last couple of years, they decided to allow former royal family members to visit on tourist visas. And that's it. And then they can get the hell out because they're not welcome.
It's always, yeah. See, that's a move I wouldn't have made if I were the Greek government.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, you guys we like you better somewhere else outside of Greece. I mean,
yeah. Go away.
They are objectively a little bit of a danger, right? Longhorn Clemens is asking if we're going to name and shame Robbie's employer after he's gone.
Good question.
So that we may choose not to do business with them in the future. I'm just going to, without giving it away, I don't think that they're the kind of business that you would probably be likely to come into contact with. But we'll leave that to Robbie to answer that question. It seems to me like vengeance is best served by the person who was aggrieved. Also,
okay.
Better Thanksgiving, F you so, Buck. Better Thanksgiving dinner, Charlie Brown or Trump Walmart? I don't know what Trump Walmart means.
I gave my second son $5 once, and I asked him to go to the Walmart meat counter and ask if where he could find the turducken, and just to watch the guy's face, like, what? So I was able to take a picture. Yeah.
Gross idea. It might be really
Constantine
yummy.
Asking for a turducken.
I don't like duck though, so I don't want and I don't like turkey. So yeah, I barely like chicken. Indian chicken.
Robbie's got a question. John, can you say Greece is democratic when it arrests people for speech? I'll pass. Yeah, I call it democratic. Of course. Now, I will admit to you that in today's edition of Kathimerini, there's an article that Greece is now 88th in the world in terms of press freedom, up from 107th, but still last in the European Union. And part of that is they do not allow pro-Nazi hate speech. That's what the fight is about. So, is it democratic? Of course it is. It has 36 different political parties, 6 or 7 of which are represented in parliament. Just because they don't allow the Nazis to spew their hate. And this is a country that lost more people per capita, like as a percentage of the country's population, of any country in the world during the Second World War. So yeah, I say they're democratic.
Oh, Frasmataz, I think maybe I made myself unclear. He says he's surprised that he or she trust Trump over Rashid Dostum, the Uzbek warlord.
Oh, I thought that's what you said.
That's not what I said at all. I trust Dostum.
Oh, I trust Trump more than Dostum.
I mean, Dostum never lied to me, and Dostum told me some uncomfortable truths that.
Wow, Dostum! If I had been in the room with Dostum, it would have taken all my energy not to shoot him in the brain.
It took all my energy to not die of fear. I mean, I was absolutely terrified, but I mean, he had no reason to do anything to me, but that might not stop him.
But if the mood had struck him.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely a psychopath. No question about it.
Without any doubt.
I mean, kind of like, what is a psychopath? Let's go take a look at that. You're welcome, Frasmataz. All right. Well, I think we're winding. Oh, well, God, we got to talk. Maybe we'll get around to this tomorrow. Israel's ITV basically has a documentary. It's sort of like the Winter Soldier for Israel. And basically they have a bunch of IDF troops admitting that it was a free fire zone in Gaza. And now, of course, they're suffering from PTSD.
Of course they are. They did terrible things.
They're coming back and basically they forced Palestinians into tunnels that were mined in order to map them out. They did all sorts of shit that was just absolutely crazy. None of this is surprising.
No.
But it's good that it's coming out. It's actually probably good for the mental health of the soldiers the veterans who are coming forward.
And I'm going to make a prediction. It's going to come out more and more and more. And we're going to see that all the stuff that ICRC said, or Human Rights Watch, or Amnesty International, that it's all going to end up being true. And we're going to see more and more Israeli whistleblowers. Mark my words. It's going to come.
No question. All right. Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and call it a show. We'll be back tomorrow, as we always are, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Thank you so much for joining us, John. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you, Ted.
And we will talk to you then. Thanks for tuning in. Please stay tuned for the TMI show with Ted Rall and Manila Chan. That's me. For a lighter take on the news, we've got some fun stories, including the fact that the Trump administration doesn't want to let fat people into the United States on tourist visas anymore. Strange but true.
Oh. Bye, everybody.
Bye.